You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.
Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to Guitar Talk.
Welcome back to Guitar Talk, everybody. I'm Dave.
I'm John, and can you believe the voice? Can you believe the eloquence? Oh my God, Billy Corgan has such a powerful voice. I just saw that woman posted another video, and it's the same thing. I don't remember who the singer was that she was commenting on, but she had the finger on the mouth again in the screenshot. You know, the other one that I saw that I thought was ridiculous, there's a guy that does the same sort of shit, except his videos are all labeled British guitarist, blah, 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 comments on some bullshit.
I can't watch any of his. His are boring.
No, but it's funny because it's like there's some level of, like, all of a sudden you come from a place of authority because you're a British guitarist.
Exactly.
Cambodian mandolin player comments on, you know, it's a who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's I don't know if you were doing the finger thing. Did you happen to see on Howard Stern this week? He had Dana Carvey on, he's Mike Myers stealing Dr. Evil from Dana Carvey's impersonation of Lorne Michaels.
It was funny. I didn't know that.
That was real interesting. You got to go watch that. It was pretty funny.
How does Dana feel about that?
Well, he said his therapist got an earful about it, but now he's over it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling that there's probably some level of career jealousy that's involved in that, maybe a little bit. Because Mike Myers had a pretty substantial career after Saturday Night Live, and Dana, like, after Wayne's World and all that, he didn't really have a lot of luck.
Yeah, Carvey just did. He did the Garth thing. Remember, he was Garth on Wayne's World, and then you know, he had a TV series. He had the Dana Carvey show, which I think did like half a season. I liked it, but it got cut. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just he has
two things going on. Number one, I'm obviously not home. Okay. I am out and about, and hence that's why I'm on my laptop. And number two, do I detect you bought a Stiletto again?
Yeah, I did.
I can see it there. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I really don't need it. It sounds a lot like my Splon.
Yeah.
This guy was selling one on Reverb, and he was asking like already a cheap price for it, and I was like, I wonder if I like throw a low ball out there if this guy just takes it. So I ended up buying it for $611 shipped to my door. Wow. For a Mesa Boogie, and I was just kind of like, the worst thing that could happen with this is it doesn't, you know, I screw around with it for a little while, I don't like it, I can turn around and sell it for, you know, at worst the same price. Probably, you know, $750, $800 easily.
Well, without giving away what model was what on your show, both were close enough that each one could get dialed into the next, that I think you should just get rid of the most expensive one of the two, because I don't see a need for it. I mean, they both sound real similar. Like, whatever the higher gain amp was, you could easily draw it back to get that and pull out some of the highs. And the other one, you could have just cranked it up more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're both good. And now that you're just talking about it, I guess we'll just go into it. But okay, so I did a video this weekend, and it's out there now, and it's called what is it called? Does the Mesa Boogie Stiletto really suck?
Yeah, but I think you should save the reveal for your own.
That's fine. I won't do that, but I'll lay down the premise for the listeners who haven't seen it.
Okay.
Basically, this came up because I like the amp. I've had it before, and I think it's a good amp. And if you go to the gear forums, everybody says that it sucks, that it's thin, it's brittle, it's too bright, there's no body. Everybody's got a criticism of it. And as usual, most of the people that have a criticism either played it once in a guitar store for 5 minutes or they've never actually played it. I've owned it. I think the amp sounds really good, and I think that it's a, to use the Joe Bonamassa term, it's a pariah for whatever reason, and I don't quite understand it. It's an incredibly viable amplifier. It sounds great. The clean channel, forget about it. The clean channel is really nice.
What are the tubes it's running?
More tubes. It's running 6L6s. I'm sorry, I'm completely lying to you. EL34s, EL34s, rectifier tubes. Just like a dual rectifier, you can switch between the diode and the tube rectification.
Now, just like the rectifier, can I change it to 6L6?
You would have to internally rebias it for that.
Okay.
It is not switchable to 6L6.
Okay. Which is kind of good anyway, because 6L6 will be a little brighter, and I think the amp has a bright...
It's naturally bright voiced as it is, yeah. So anyways, I'm like I said, I basically decided to do this video because everybody hates the amp, and I don't think that it deserves the hate that it gets. I get that everybody's got to be an asshole online. It's just like the nature of it, but it doesn't deserve it. It's a good sounding amplifier, and I did a video where I basically shoot it out with the splon, and it's blind, so you don't see which one is which. Mm-hmm. And I think both of them sound pretty good. I thought some of the comments so far were pretty funny because like one of the guys happened to say that amp number 2 in the test, if you watch the video, amp number 2 is mixed too low. Well, the funny thing about it is it was hitting the mic preamp hotter than amp number 1 was, and it's a louder clip. It just doesn't sound louder because the tonality is not as the brightness is maybe not as strident or whatever it is. Something about the tonality is making it seem like it might be quieter, but it's not. It's hotter.
Well, I've always been the one to think when people say, "Oh, if you really want to cut through the mix, you got to push the mids." I think you got to push the highs. I think the treble cuts through a mix, and most people, it's all mid-range, and then you have a bass player that's playing low to mid, and then you have a guy that's reviewing guitars saying that the Carina wood gives focused mids. Thank you. But seriously,
that's the real problem with the Stiletto, is that it's just got these meandering, unfocused mids.
They're not focused. They don't apply themselves.
Exactly.
I wish they would just pick a frequency and go with it.
Exactly.
No, but it's like, I always think like people, like if you push the guitar and you move the frequency just a little bit, I mean, if you don't, the guy who's mixing your record, he's going to do it anyway. He's going to bring it high, push the highs, get the mids out of there, because that needs to be the pocket the singer's usually in. I mean, even if you listen to Van Halen, go listen to the isolated Van Halen tracks. It's a lot of bright.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a Marshall.
Yeah, it's not,
I mean,
it's not that mid push that everyone thinks they're hearing when they, when you go see him live, it's a different story sometimes. Although I saw him live in 2007. It was the brightest, worst I've ever. Horrendous.
Yeah.
And because I brought that up in a video of mine, you ever notice like somebody will sit there and say to you, "Oh, that Stiletto, it just didn't sound good. What did you play with it through?" It doesn't matter. What are you talking about? No matter what pickup if you put like EMGs and you put it in a 5E3 amp, it's not going to sound as if you were listening to old PAFs through a 5E3 57 Tweed. You're not going to sound the same. They're not going to, one of them you're not going to be impressed with it, and the other one, one of them you're going to say, "Hey, is that a jazz chorus?" You know what I mean? It's going to be like, it's just going to have no character. And so what you play through it really affects how and what you're listening to. And if you are playing crappy pickups and you find an amp that works with your crappy pickups, well, then you got a good marriage. But don't expect any other amp to sound good when you plug your crappy pickups into it. And vice versa. When you have good pickups, a lot of amps sound great.
Yeah. You know how I could have You know how many different ways I could have made both of those amps sound different from the recording that you heard?
Yeah.
I know you do, but I mean the people in the audience out there, like, if somebody is like, "Oh, that amp's too bright" or whatever, like, dude, I could have moved the microphone off the cone a little bit. Okay, there's one way to solve it. And turn the treble knob down a little bit. Okay, there's another way to do it. Like, there's just like an infinite number of ways that the reproduction of that sound could have changed.
Personally, I would, for next time, try this, is put the ribbon mic in the same type of position so it's even darker, so there's more of a contrast. Why? Because I felt like you kind of squeezed the contrast together a little bit by putting the 57 in where it's a little warmer and putting the ribbon where it's a little brighter. Instead of putting them both where they would be, the contrast would be wider, the ribbon would be really big.
On the video that does the comparison, I didn't use the 57.
Oh,
that
okay.
was just the one mic on the center of the cone.
Gotcha. Oh, I was talking about the mic placement video that I saw.
Yeah, that one I used the 57 and the ST-170. And
Right.
I thought that one sounded really good.
Yeah.
Personally, that's how I want to do it. But I didn't put the this time around, I will admit the reason I didn't use the 57 on this recording is because I repositioned the ST-170, and when I recorded it and listened back to it, I realized I repositioned it out of phase, and they were pulling against each other. So I was just like, if I turn off the 57 right now, it sounds really good. I thought the mic on its own sounds really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been slightly different with the 57.
There's guys that do that too. They do the amp test and they do pedal tests, and it's like, here's everything at noon, and then they strum a chord, and I'm supposed to give a shit and listen to that pedal and be like, oh wow, that pedal sounds like a dirty sound. Whatever it is that they're doing, it's like, why don't you dial the pedal in to make it sound like you think it sounds good? Play me something that sounds good, and then I can listen to it and go, hey, that does sound good. But not just to sit there and do, here's noon. It doesn't really sound good, but I'm just trying to show you what the pedal sounds like. That's bullshit. That's not really selling the pedal, really. It's not even showing what the pedal can do.
I get it. I mean, I kind of get it. It's like taking a here's an analogy for you. It's like taking a sports car into 4 p.m. Los Angeles traffic.
Right.
You know, and you're driving a maximum of 25 miles an hour, and you're saying, see, this baby can really purr. You're like, what? Can I get on the PCH? Oh, yeah, we're going to do that right now. And then you take it on the PCH, and it's like, oh shit, the traffic is still backed up here, too. Still going 25.
It's to the point where it gets ridiculous because you're trying to see what a pedal sounds like, and you want to hear what the person playing it can do and make it sound like. Like, there's a pedal that I got, and I'm embarrassed to say I haven't even plugged it in yet, is the Golden Cello. Everyone that does it, everyone that plays it, and the knobs are very conservative, but it has the darkest sounding demos I've ever heard. I would tell everyone, crank that. You know, they're afraid to crank the treble up, but crank that treble up because the pedal is supposed to give you Eric Johnson in a box. Eric Johnson doesn't have this dark underwater jazz tone. You know, it's somewhat warm, but it's got a little brightness. If that makes any sense. It's somewhat warm. It has brightness. Yeah.
There's a joke built into that Eric Johnson in a box thing. It's kind of like the Prince Albert in a can joke.
Right. Get him out.
So
yeah. Yeah. I love when people sit there and say, Eric Johnson, oh, he can tell what kind of battery you put in a pedal. Oh, really? But he can't tell me how to write a decent song that can capture my attention for 2 minutes?
That's a different skill set. Do you remember on that record that got big, was it My Via Musicom? And it got big amongst like 6 guitar players.
But you know what? There's an old TV show called F Troop. And Paul Lynde plays the singing Mountie. And in the beginning, oh, I do. And he's bragging about how he can go at a campfire for 5 minutes and look at everything and tell you where the person is now, what they ate last night, what they're thinking, what they're doing. And the guy says, well, how come you haven't caught him yet? He goes, I can't find the campsite.
That's so stupid.
Eric Johnson. He can tell you batteries in the pedal. Oh, really? How come you can't write a song? I can't find the campsite.
You know,
I shouldn't say it. I do like Cliffs of Dover, but I'm just saying in general, there's a lot of nonsense because I would take a bet with any battery. You think you could brand a battery? That's all right. You can't.
Oh yeah, no, I only use energizers.
Right.
Better mids, more focused mids.
Yeah, the focus. I prefer the Rayovacs. They have the scooped mids.
That whole Eric Johnson thing about like Eric Johnson, the tone, blah blah blah. Dude, his tone is like, I don't think his tone's that great. It's not for me. It's unique and it's a voice all of his, but man, it's got so much like reverb and delay and everything else on top of it. It's I don't know. Again, I'm not making friends with my opinion.
No, it's all fine. I'll tell you something that I found interesting, and I thought we would talk about this. Is there's a guy, his name's Dave something. Is it World of Guitars?
I think it's Dave Levine.
No, this guy. But he has a video, and he talked about new players versus old school, new school versus old school. And he's talking about the technical prowess of players. And I guess he was talking with Ed Dana, who I like Ed a lot, really nice guy. But the gist of the story is that these guys who are so technical have no soul. And these young kids don't play with any soul. And I thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, it comes across as sour grapes.
Mm-hmm.
Because not all music is meant to be this blues emotion-based music.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be. The person who's the audience, nobody needs to sit there and say, oh, I loved Paganini's Fifth Caprice, but I just really didn't buy into the anguish in the second movement. It's like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, honestly, you need a lot of soul for it. If it has a blues edge to it, you would need soul. But some music is just technically very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of us, you and I, were listening to 2 today.
Cygnus X Book 2, indeed.
Yes. Now, musically, I really enjoy the song. Lyrically and vocally, I want to kill myself when I hear it. It is like...
I love it. I completely love it.
Get his voice on that song, and just the lyrics itself, it's like...
My Rocinante sailed by night on her final flight. Oh, bonus points for all of you literary scholars out there in our audience who knows where the reference of Rocinante comes from.
I don't even think Neil Peart knows that he wrote the lyrics.
Ooh.
No, but my point is I think there's like there is there's some people out there who are technically very, very great players. And I don't want to take anything away, because when I used to tell people about Anton O'Parent, people would say, "Oh yeah, but I'm sure he doesn't have any soul. It has no." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? The kid was 13 years old. He was top."
Right, exactly.
They all
sour
wanted.
grapes.
It's sour grapes because it's like, well, if you ask him to play a passage or play any AC/DC, now here's a kid that's playing Paul Gilbert stuff flawlessly and classical music flawlessly, shredding like a monster.
Right.
You ask him to play an AC/DC song, it's flawless.
Yeah.
It's got all. It sounds like Angus. It's got everything that Angus has and more.
But
And
that's the problem. It's flawless.
right, exactly. That's what somebody would say. They'll find something wrong with it instead of just saying, "Hey, the fucking kid's good."
There's
The
only
kid-
one musician who I know that's dealt with enough pain and anguish in his life by the time he was Anton's age to where you just know that you're dealing with a superstar ready to be born. Dewey Cox.
You know,
Accidentally cut his brother in half when he was how old?
1970s. They can do more. They can put the top half with the bottom half.
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
So, but no, seriously, I just feel like, and like I said, all these guys are good guys, but it's like it is a little of sour grapes. There are guys who don't have soul and don't have it, and they'll get it. But there are guys who are technically proficient that aren't really working on it, and they don't care that you don't think they have that blues element to them because that's not what they like. They listen to Dream Theater and Petrucci. I mean, if you listen to a John Petrucci solo, does any of them have soul in the technical sense of like a blues guy would play or anything like that?
Well, he what I will give him credit for is that in terms of the bending and the vibrato's nice and wide. The bending's always in tune.
No, he's a technically flawless player, but he's effing great.
Yeah.
There's no taking away from how, like, I do not like Dream Theater, but every musician in the band on its own is fantastic.
Yeah.
I would be an asshole to say anything else. The guys are unbelievable. Just because I don't like, and same with Eric Johnson, just because I don't like the songs when I'm joking about writing a decent song. Dream Theater actually do have songs I like. I like The Glass Prison.
Yeah.
Actually.
No, it's very rare that you get that crossbreed of, and I'm probably going off of your point here, but it's rare that you get a crossbreed of somebody who has soul and sophistication of their playing technique.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they don't have soul because that's not the music they're playing. If you say to them, "Hey, play a blues song," you're gonna go, "Oh fuck, this guy can play that too." But that's not his flavor. That's not what he likes.
Right.
Petrucci. If I took a Petrucci record, if I took the Glass Prison solo, that solo in the intro, that nutty, and I isolated that and gave somebody an isolated solo and said, "You got to see this kid. He's 15 years old." I can guarantee every asshole's gonna say, "But he's got no soul, man." That's no.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's true.
Yeah. Go play that. Go figure out what that guy's doing and see. It's not about that. It's also the album. I don't know what the Glass Prison. It probably went gold, that album. 6 Degrees of Turbulence.
Yeah.
I'm
6
sure
Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Probably gold. Certainly not platinum.
Well, at minimum gold because it was a double album, and double albums get counted twice if everyone's sold. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, it only has to sell 250,000 to be counted as a 500,000 sale.
Okay, got it.
So, but I'm sure it went gold, and you could listen to it and sit there and take it apart and be like, "Oh, this is it doesn't have any heart, or it doesn't." Now, I understand if your preference is you don't like that kind of music because it lacks soul, then you can clearly say, I don't dig it. But you can't deny the player is all I'm saying. It doesn't matter. Like there's so many great players, especially when you go on YouTube and you watch guys play. It's like, oh man, there are some smoking players out there. Now, I don't know if they can play in a situation when the camera's not on them, and I don't know what's going on to get to point A to point B or how much they do of it. And personally, I don't care. They're playing great. But I wouldn't take anything away from them. Of course, the industry is dead because nobody is writing songs. And the craft of writing songs is dead. And I got to tell you, I went out, remember Greg Mara? Do you know Greg? Real cool guy. Anyways, he posted something on Facebook. And he was
Does he have any soul?
Yeah, he's a good player. I like Greg.
Okay.
But yeah, Greg's really he posted that his one of his favorite albums is the first Badlands album.
Okay.
So I went.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
No. So I went back and I listened to it, and about 4 songs in, I'm like, I don't get this at all.
Right.
Now, Jakey is a tasteful player, got a lot of blues in him, he's got a lot of soul as a player. I think he's a good player. I don't think there's a song on that album that's worth a shit.
I don't know the record at all.
It's and that's where it's like, yeah, it's just it's messed up. But it's like if you don't have a song. I watched a documentary last night about the Spinners. Were you ever a Spinners fan?
I'm aware of them, but it's one of those bands where I'd probably say I don't know who they are unless you tell me, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I know that song. So I would not say fan.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there.
Yeah, it's a great song. I didn't know that was them.
Could it be I'm falling in love with you, baby? Could it be I'm falling?
Yeah, I know who they are. Those clips need to go on the compilation as well.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, good. Okay. Anyway,
documentary. They were signed by Motown. Motown was giving them like the runt of the litter of all the terrible songs. Stevie Wonder, the year that they were going to be losing their contract or ending their contract with Motown, Stevie Wonder says, I got a song for you guys that I hear you guys doing. And he gave them, It's a Shame, the way you done it, it's a shame. So they had a hit with that song and then left Motown. And this guy, Tom Bell, says, all you guys need is songs. And I'm going to give you songs. And he gave them 4 songs, and he bet them about being successful. He's like, if I can't make you a success, I'll buy each one of you guys whatever car you want. If I get you a #1 record, you have to buy me a Cadillac. And they were like, all right. Anyways, 4 songs, like all 4 songs were huge smash hits.
Oh, wow.
And Tom Bell.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and Tom Bell, before working with the Spinners, wrote all the hits for the Stylistics. He wrote all the hits for the Delphonics. So he was this big Philly producer that knows the importance of a song. And without them, nobody would have heard of this. I think the Spinners were around 15 years before they had a hit. And that sometimes, it's the importance of how important a song is. It really is everything.
Yeah. Except in this day and age, people, as you noted earlier, the craft is kind of not front and center.
It's dead.
The craft does not have focused mids. The thing about YouTube and the ease of accessibility into everything is you can make your whole shtick like these guys, like Andy James, who's a ridiculous ripper, or Angel Vivaldi, or any of these other like fresh young faces, like you're talking about, where they don't have songs, they just have these ripping technical, almost like technical exhibitions, and it's got a drum machine behind it, and they put bass tracks down, and then they just shred their faces off, and then people say, "Oh my God, you hear Andy James? That guy's ridiculous!" And they get endorsements, and they get whatever, That's kind of where the age of the guitar player has gone, I think.
Well, I also think just in what you and I were talking about today about Rush, I hear that song Cygnus, and I hear like really interesting musical stuff, but the lyrics are like, it just seems like a never ending, like, I'm going to go to the B section now, and I'm going to go to, the 2 section, the 3 section. It doesn't have something where I'm like, wow. And they eventually got there. Like Rush, like by the time you get to Spirit of the Radio album, Permanent Waves, right. You have Spirit of the Radio, Free Will, you have Entre Nous, you have these, all of a sudden they really developed into great songs. I mean, by the time they do Moving Pictures, you're now into Limelight, Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, Camera Eye. it to me, that is like, that's when they were like at their peak, because they realized you can have the long song and maybe a longer than usual, but getting those synth sounds, those old Prophet, and writing songs that have hooks really did them well.
They're a great example because they went through such an interesting journey in songwriting because, I mean, their first record had none of the Cygnus X Book 2 sort of approach. Their first record, you know, I get up at 7, and I go to work at night. And it's
That's
heavy.
funny.
It's heavy blues, Zeppelin, Sabbath influenced rock songs, and they are songs. And then all of a sudden you get into the second half of Fly By Night and you get like, you know, this Tolkien-esque Rivendell and
Rivendell's terrible.
I totally agree.
Is phenomenal. Fly By Night is a concise classic rock song, and they were straying away from that and to the Necromancer or the Necromancer. What is it? The Necromancer.
Necromancer. Yeah. And then into you get what was the record? There's a funny joke that Paul Stanley says actually about
Caressive Steel.
Is it Caressive Steel? Where I don't get it. You guys don't like women or whatever he says. I don't know. It's something funny, but they also were kind of what were they listening to? They were listening to a lot of Yes and a lot of ELP and that sort of stuff. I think that they were experimenting.
Oh, totally.
And they had freedom from the record company that you don't get like later than that. Like we were talking last episode about, you know, the record company started with the guy with the cigar saying, you know, let's see what happens, and then it turns into the hipster saying, you got to give me this because I know what's cool. Well, somehow early in their career, Rush had freedom to make bad decisions or to make I'm not going to say bad, unpopular decisions. And then they blossomed out of that into a better band.
I think they were finding, to quote their first album, they were finding their way.
Ooh, what a great song.
They started off as a Zeppelin-esque band. They started adding the synths and started getting into the real prog rock shit. And then by the time they get to Permanent Waves, they figured out, hey, we can still do the prog rock stuff, but we can also put it in a song in something that people will remember. And they became really good at their craft. I mean, I would say Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, and Signals are like a 1, 2, 3 punch of that band they were on point.
I'm going to say something here because I'm such a fanboy. I don't know that they ever believed that they found their rhythm. Honestly, until probably the time they released that documentary and realized they didn't have to be something greater than just what they were. Because you listen to what you're talking about, Permanent Waves, you get this great band with these great songs, and then Moving Pictures, it really culminates. But then it like veers off and it does all kinds of weird stuff in the 80s. And then in the early 90s, you get like Roll the Bones, which was like a weird, thin sort of like attempted return into power trio music, and the Counterparts is even heavier. And then they, it just like it kept morphing. They never really found like footing.
Yeah, it's strange because I think by the time they came out with Subdivisions, that album, Signals, it would have been
Subdivisions.
Cool. In the basement. But it would have probably what the hell the lyrics are. I have no idea. I'd have to ask those kids that heard it one time.
In the basement bars, in the backs of cars.
So, but I would have really liked if Grace Under Pressure went backwards. Would have been nice. It kind of went away from the pop because I thought Signals was a perfect culmination of them getting to that point, and the songs were shorter. they were still had all the juicy synths and all the elements were there. And then
Oh, what is that song?
that's Kid Rye.
Oh, you're right. It is. Why was I thinking it was on Signals?
No, that's Kid Rye.
That's funny.
Grace Under Pressure, even maybe Grace Under Pressure was actually a cool record. Maybe even Power Windows, if Power Windows went back to
Was Beneath the Wheel on Grace Under Pressure?
I think it's...
Or was it on Signals?
No, it's either Power Windows or Grace Under Pressure. I have to think. Which is the one with the enemy within? Is that Power Windows?
I don't remember. I'm looking right now.
Red Sector A. I'm going to say it's
Red Sector A is Grace Under Pressure.
100%. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. But I think... What was the name of the song? Behind the Wheels?
Beneath the Wheel.
Yeah, Beneath the Wheel.
Grace Under Pressure. Last song.
It's the last song.
And it's great.
It's a great album.
Yeah.
It's a real album, Jack.
That's when I met Geddy Lee. Instead of saying cheese, I think I said Grace Under Pressure's best record ever, because I was really listening to it a lot at that point in time.
Well, no wonder why I was confused.
Yeah, exactly. Geddy's like, say what?
Pictures, isn't it? This guy said Grace Under Pressure.
What's wrong with this kid?
Ruined his day. No, he was taking your word for as gospel. He was like, wait a second, I have it wrong. You got to go back.
Called his agent. How many of those records did we sell? 77? Oh, okay. I don't get it. 77,000? Oh, just 77.
This guy just came up to me at the bodega and was like, wasn't the name of that place the bodega? What was the?
I think it was called the Men's Bathhouse. Just for the sake of the story, this guy just came up to me at the Men's Bathhouse and said, "Well, if that was the case, I would have said Power Windows."
Right.
Or no, what was the Hold Your Fire?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst. You know what's really funny about that band? It's one of my favorite bands of all time, and it also has like a handful of records I won't turn on. I refuse to. They're horrible records.
I have a hard time listening to everything from what was after Power Windows? Hold Your Fire?
Yeah.
From Hold Your Fire on.
That one stinks.
Hold Your Fire on, I'm done. I can't listen.
Yeah.
So Power Windows is the last album for me.
Yeah.
And
there's not even a lot on Power Windows I really like, to be honest.
There's a couple of really good songs on it, though. Is that the
world weighs on my shoulders, but what am I to do?
That's Grace Under Pressure.
What song is that?
That's called what's the name of that? It's the first song on Grace Under Pressure. It's called
Early Distant Warning?
Yes.
That's not Grace Under Pressure? You might be right.
Yeah, first song.
What's on Power Windows then?
Power Windows has
Marathon, which stinks.
Marathon, but also the Big Money.
Oh, that song stinks.
What was the other one though? The Manhattan Project.
Ooh, that might be the only good one on that record.
Yeah, there is. And is The Enemy Within on that album too, or is that on Grace Under Pressure?
That was earlier. That's on Grace Under Pressure. Oh, I know what song you like.
What?
Mystic Rhythms.
Is that on Power Windows?
Yeah, it's another bad one.
Okay, folks. Grace Under Pressure is the last album.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Power Windows had like one or two good songs. Red Sector A, though, I always liked. I liked Kid Gloves.
Yeah, Red Sector A is cool because it's got that really cool. I like the way that they play off of each other in that song. The guitar line playing those the chord voice. And but it's obviously way higher than I'm singing it. But it's cool. It's not like a driving rock thing. It's like this chordal melody thing that he's doing.
I think the Body Electric is on that album too.
Body Electric. Yeah, second song.
Yeah. I like that album a lot. What's the third song on Grace Under Pressure?
Red Sector A.
Okay. Is that the 1001? No, that's Body Electric, isn't it?
Yeah. No, red sector A is the
I see red.
I hear the sound of gunfire at the prison gates.
Yes.
That one. What was the other one you just mentioned?
I see red. What opens? I see red.
Well, I don't like that one.
Oh, of course.
Between the Wheels. Ooh. Telling you, kid, that's my jam right there.
Yeah. So did you happen to catch a video that I posted talking about the Marshalls, the JCM 900s, 800s, all that nonsense?
I did.
And
disagreed with all of it. I'm just kidding.
sure. No, I know. Because it's a valid point going on when I can't stand when people sit there and they're like, oh, you know, because there was a guy who did a review of an amp, and then at the end he's like, you really want to get yourself an amp, get yourself a JCM 800. And I'm like, what? Like the 2203, 2204? Okay, but the 2205 and 2210, not a fan.
Oh, this is so funny. I read something right after you posted that video, and I saw that video, and it made me smile a little bit because it was an interview with John Five. And John Five is a hell of a guitar player.
Amazing.
He plays 900s, and he said in this, I think the article was based around like how guitar players like their essential recording tips for getting their sound, something like that. And
he played the dual reverbs. Is that the one he's playing, the 4100s?
I don't know which exact model, but the point being, everybody rips the 900s and says that, you know, you need the 2203 or whatever. But John Five, who's this great ripper, he said when he goes to the studio, he's got his Marshalls, and he specifically says, I've got JMPs and 2203s, and he says, I generally do most of my recording with my 900. And I just, you know, neither here nor there as to my opinion, because I've never played a 900, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But the fact is, that's what he's using, and everybody out there is like, oh, dude, that guy's great. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what do you think of that, fellas?
Yeah, you know, the reason is because the 900 and the 2205, the 2210, and the 900, 4100, and 4500 generally have clipping diodes in the circuit. 4100 and the 4500 are generally very similar, except the dual reverb has a different reverb for each channel. The 2205 and 2210 share the reverb. There's a
Okay, so let me back this up for a second. Just to be clear, you're saying that all four of the models just mentioned, the 2205, 2210, and then the dual reverb models, the 4405 and
4100 and 4500.
Yeah. All four of those amps have the clipping diode circuit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing that right.
Now, the thing is until on the JCM 800 version, the 2205 and 2210s, there's a knob to add it in, a gain knob on top of the gain. However, on the 4100 and 4500, if once you get the gain up to 8, it kicks in the diode. But who the hell?
How does that work? I'm thinking in terms of a schematic, like at what point does the voltage like all of a sudden send a signal to this clipping diode?
Say it doesn't kick in until it's about at 8 until it gets to that level. So if you turn them down, they don't get that. You're not using the clipping diode. At least that's what I read about the circuit. But I'm not.
I'd like to see that circuit.
My buddy has a 900 that I used to own, and I told him if you keep the gain around 5, the thing sounds like an old 2203. Thing sounds great.
Yeah.
But my point is who puts the gain dimed?
I think a lot of people with those old amps do it. Probably a lot more than should.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if it's not a master volume, what would be the point? I mean, if it's a non-master, then you would. But if it has a master volume, to me, having it dimed, it's just going to overcompress and be like.
Well, No, I get it. I mean, we're talking
Let's
to
put it this
we're
way,
talking.
Stiletto behind you. Did you have that dimed when you played? Was the game dimed?
Hold on, it's at noon.
Right.
That's how I play it.
It's at the 50-yard line. That's how
Yeah,
I
let me
play.
see. Let me check my Splon. The Splon's between 12:30 and 1.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah. No,
Which is
no,
a martial
no.
circuit. Just still
I-
at 6:30.
I get it. But I'm saying is when you say like who plays it dimed, probably a lot more people than not. And I'm not talking about famous artists. I'm talking about all the guys who tell you how terrible the amp is that are sitting
Right.
in their bedrooms,
That's right.
which is, I mean, the relationship is probably 10,000 to 1. Those guys versus the guys who are more sensible with their sound. That's why they're in the bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. That was my point. It's like,
Pointing fingers at all of them.
when people sit there and say the 900 doesn't sound good, first of all, to me, the 2100 is the best 900 amp there is, the original 2100, and the 2500. Years ago, I had a buddy that had a JCM 900, 2500. I had my dual rectifier, and a buddy of mine had a JCM 800 2210 modded by Lee Jackson. And we compared all the amps. And I thought the rectifier was the best sounding of the three, but the 900 ate up that 800. Sounded so much better, so much nastier. And another thing is you could then find out, I mean, to me, all these amps are so similar anyways. Like if you had a dual rectifier and then you put it next to a Stiletto, can I make them both sound the same? Probably. Pretty damn.
You won't get the low end out of the Stiletto. It's not there.
Yeah, but but are you going to record with that low end? I mean, you got to pull that out anyways.
That's true. This is something I was talking about today.
And
it's
then
funny.
I'll put a mic on it. The mic ain't picking it up. It's like, what?
No, it's funny. I was talking about this earlier today. Like how many people you think of out there want like, the new modern metal sound, which is all this low end. And they're like, I need an amp that's got like, I like the lows. And then the first thing they do to it, because it's what they see everybody doing to it, is taking a tube screamer, killing the gain, diming the volume. But that tube screamer's got a high pass filter right at the very first stage, which is why it tightens up the amp. So you got this amp that you want to be like full of lows, and then you immediately cut the lows off when you kick the tube screamer on. And you focus the mids.
Exactly. Well, I mean, but then again, you got people that go in and they go to record and they do home recordings, and I guarantee 90% of the home recording guys are using a 57 on it by itself.
Yeah, and you're not getting a lot of lows out of that.
No.
Adam D from Killswitch Engage. You listen to that Killswitch stuff. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
He specifically he was another one that I was reading about the other day. It was the same article that John 5 was in, because they were talking to, I think it was Paul Gilbert, John 5, Adam D, and then 2 other guitar players. It was 5 guitar players. Adam D specifically stated that when he records, he takes his 57, he uses a 57 by itself on his cabinet, and he backs it off 6 to 8 inches away from the grill, because he doesn't like the proximity effect that most metal guys like. So you get that additional low-end rumble by putting it up against the speaker. Yet here's a guy that's getting some of the heaviest recorded guitar tones in the modern age, and he's doing exactly the opposite and pulling out that proximity effect. So, I mean, you got to leave some room for your bass player.
Yeah.
Let him handle the lows.
If you don't, the guy mixing is going to.
Right.
I mean, either way.
Unless it's the guy mixing and Justice for All.
Right.
When's the last time you listened to Metallica?
I can't listen to them.
It's funny. It's one of those bands that when you're like 13 years old, like they connect with you for whatever reason. It doesn't transcend that for me. Like it stayed in my teenage years, whereas I still listen to like Megadeth and all that stuff. But like, there's something I just don't really like about them.
When I was 16 in '84, Ride the Lightning came out.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell is this? This is fantastic. I was already out of them by the time Master of Puppets came out. I was done. It was like, I thought Master of Puppets was like, here's somebody that made an album and now they're trying to like one-up themselves. And I just felt it was like, I don't know. At that point, Queensryche came up with Rage for Order, and I was like, I like that record.
You're like, who is that lady?
They lost me with Mind Crime, though. Mary.
Oh,
Mary. It's horrendous.
I love Operation Mindcrime. Love it to death.
Let me tell you.
Operation Mindcrime. It's an underground revolution working overtime.
I would love to have been at the pitch, right? When whoever was like, here's the idea, guys. We do a concept album. This priest and Mary. I would have been like laughing my balls off. I would have been like, can somebody please just get me a catheter so I can just continually piss my pants? What the hell is this idiot talking about? Mary. Oh, it's friggin' horrible. And then at the end, we're just completely off. It's... I don't believe. When that record came out,
I love that song.
They were a year and a half, and they had to release this record.
Oh, but I'll tell you what. On Empire, Eddie Jackson has the best bass tone ever.
Yes.
Blow, 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 blow. It's so great.
You love Jet City Woman. I love this. Choose whiskey or a wife.
What's the skin tight leather provides my pleasure. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
What's the one Della Brown that they have on there?
It's hard to find whiskey.
Oh, right, that's right. I'm trying to remember the lyric. There's something else on there, right? And it sounds like it's gonna be, some pseudo profound nonsense, and then they're like, excuse me, could you spare some change? And you're just like, what? So dumb.
Yeah. In fact, on that album, besides Jet City Woman, which was okay, I liked Empire. That's about it.
Oh, Empire's great.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's starting to hit me like a 2-ton heavy thing. That's my favorite. Now that song's got great bass tone.
It's got
Eddie Jackson.
Recorded album.
That was
about that the other day. Like if you liked Megadeth, like the production, like I love Rust in Peace and A Countdown to Extinction.
Right.
But the production is terrible compared to the. I mean, even compared to Euthanasia. Euthanasia is a better produced album.
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Yeah, and Cryptic Writings, the production's phenomenal. I mean, it's really good. The drums are monstrous.
How amazing is it that after like the complication, like the absolute complication of Rust in Peace, and then even Countdown had its moments, but the hit song. Hold on, can I grab a guitar for a second?
Oh, please.
All right, here we go. Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah,
We don't need anything plugged in because you just need to be able to hear this. Can you hear that?
I already know the tune.
Oh, it's just hilarious that they go from the complication of one record, and then their big hit off of Euthanasia was literally.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was just. And that was the whole thing. It was just a rhythmic pattern. There was no there was nothing to it.
Yeah, but it was a
And the
great
song blew up. It was a very cool song.
Yeah, because it had a good hook. Feel the body rolling, I'll be coming down the miles on this train of consequences.
Boxcar life of style.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
There's some
Fantastic.
great songs on. I mean,
I think those two records back to back, was it Euthanasia and Cryptic Writings? Well, they're both good.
great. I think Cryptic Writings is underrated. I think it's the most underrated album.
Yeah. Well, the one they did after that was brutal.
Oh, Risk. Oh, yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. Yeah, but
because I think Mustaine on that album was writing more radio accessible songs, and yet they were still Megadeth. They were still playing, and some people may not like that because Rust in Peace is easily their Goliath masterpiece of here's like I would call that like a punk metal band that is just tearing it up. I mean, that record is devastating.
Mm-hmm.
But it lacks the appeal that, even Countdown to Extinction had.
yeah.
Countdown to Extinction has some very poppy. For Closure of a Dream is a very poppy song.
Yeah, if I was going to take we talked about this in the last episode too. If I was going to take an individual who's not a heavy metal fan, and I was going to say, I'm going to hand you the keys to Megadeth, and I'm going to get you into them, it would not be by saying, go and listen to Rust in Peace. Because the way that you're going to ease somebody into it if they don't listen to metal, dude, that album is so made for a metalhead. I just don't think that that's the way that you get somebody into it. However, you give them... Yeah, go ahead.
How about what one song would you get somebody into them? And then I'll tell you the one song that made me a huge Megadeth fan.
If I'm going to give somebody one song and they've... give me a qualification here. Do they...
Megadeth.
You rock fan, but not a metal fan, or not even a rock fan?
A guitar player... let's put it this way, a guitar player who likes songs.
Okay.
Someone that would be like... So it would be like someone that would be like would respect the playing, loves the metal playing, but also respects like a good song.
Probably Foreclosure of a Dream be a way in. Be a way in. If I didn't do Foreclosure of a Dream, if it was somebody that liked rock stuff that I knew like could get down to a rock song, I might pick something like Tornado of Souls if they're a guitar player and they like the acrobatics, but probably Foreclosure of a Dream would be your general lead in.
So for me, I never liked Megadeth. I remember hearing a bunch of their stuff. And I was at Gold's one day at like 11 o'clock at night training, and all of a sudden Hangar 18 came on, and I was like, what the hell is this?
Welcome to a fortress.
I bought it. I went out and bought that CD. I went out, and then I was like, I just followed that. Any of those albums that had those four guys in it, I was buying.
Yeah.
Hangar 18 was great. Train of Consequences is one of the songs. Like if somebody was just like, show me a song, I would be like, here's Train of Consequences. You'll get it.
Right.
At least I would. That's what I would think. And then if they said to me they want to hear just a blitzkrieg of shred, I might tell them to listen to Skin of My Teeth.
Yeah. That one's great.
Are you kidding? The two solos in that song, ridiculous.
That album, those two records are so filled with just unbelievable metal solos. For metal guitar, I still say to this day, and I've heard a lot since, those two records are filled with probably my favorite guitar solos in the metal genre, period. dude, Countdown to Extinction and Rust in Peace, Marty Friedman, out of this world. There's nobody else that made guitar solos that worked like that. They're explosive, they're different, and they work.
You know, it's funny. There's a guy who made a video, and he does this video called "The 10 Most Overrated Guitar Players of All Time." I love the guy's video. I didn't agree with everything, but I agreed with his top 3.
Oh, I'm so curious. Just spoiler, go for it.
Number 3, Carlos Santana. He would have been my number 1. I'm just saying, he would have been my number 1, but he's definitely top 3. I'd give it to him. I think he's rotten.
Okay.
I just do not think he's a good player. As an entertainer, I don't care. But terribly overrated.
Okay. Number
2 on the list was Eric Clapton.
Ooh.
Who I would have at number 2 as well.
Okay.
Now, if people say, like, I posted a video of Forever Man, of me playing Forever Man. And I always like that solo, but Eric Clapton to me is an artist. He is like a guitar player, like Elton John's a piano player. He's not impressing other piano players, Elton John, but people enjoy him as an artist. But no one's walking around saying Elton John's the greatest piano player that ever lived. Clapton is an artist. Like, when you listen to the songs from the album August, Run, Behind the Mask, It's in the Way That You Use It, I'm thoroughly enjoying that material. When he starts coming across like I'm a blues man, and he's Before You Accuse Me, I'm like, dude, just shut the hell up. You're not a blues guy. Sorry.
You're making so many people mad right now.
No, I'm just saying. It's just his playing is ultra pedestrian. There's nothing to it.
Do you remember last week I criticized Larkin Poe for being too white?
Yeah.
Guess who else I'd criticize for being too white when they sing the blues?
Clapton?
Before you accuse me. It just doesn't say he's got... it's like, dude, really? It's like your high school music teacher is singing.
Yeah, it's...
The guy's...
As I said, as an artist, I can't stand it. You're fooling around. I love those songs. Promises. La, da, 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 da. I love that stuff as an artist, but he is to guitar what Elton John is to piano. He's an entertainer, and I'm entertained. But don't put him on any list of great guitar, because he's not. Ready for number 1?
Can I guess at it?
Sure.
Okay, so this is the number 1 most overrated guitar player by some guy.
Yes.
Okay. I'm guessing it wouldn't be one that I would pick. Am I right? Or would I pick him?
You'd pick him.
Oh, Jimi Hendrix.
Jackpot. And the guy had a lot of great points. He was making the argument. He's saying, I think Hendrix is awesome. He's like, I think the guy's phenomenal, but he's terribly overrated.
I would never have put him at number 1, but
I would put him at 3. Like I said, I agree with 3, 2, and 1. Not the order. I think he's overrated because, again, people comment of what a blues guy he was and all these things. I think Hendrix was phenomenal. If you listen to songs like Axis Bold as Love, Castles Made of Sand, One Rainy Wish is phenomenal. And then Who Knows, or any of the Band of Gypsies stuff. But if you just look at him for like Purple Haze, Foxy Lady, a lot of those songs I never want to hear ever. I don't care about his blues playing so much. But he was a good player, a really good player. I think, like, it was just an interesting list. It was nice to see somebody come out and say, hey, I think these people are overrated. Because they are to a point. I mean, they all are to a point. When you sit there, if you watch Dallin Holdsworth play for 5 minutes, you're going to be like, anyone that says they're good sucks.
Exactly.
It's like Holdsworth plays anything, and you're like, yeah, who's good? Hendrix, he sucks.
Right. Yeah, you go online for 10 minutes on YouTube and watch guitar shredding videos from pedestrian teenagers who you'll never meet, and you're like, oh, who's Hendrix?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, from a technical standpoint, but
also I'm a song guy, so to me, like Jimmy Page, people say is the greatest, and I tend to agree sometimes, and more times than not, because he was so keen to writing these great songs. And
Fool in the Rain.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's really just hot fun in the summertime. Did you hear my thing about that? Fool in the Rain is the same song as Misunderstanding by Genesis.
Right.
Genesis goes bam, 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 which is hot fun in the summertime by Sly and the Family Stone. And then Zeppelin's is just ba-da, 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 just a different rhythmic pattern to it, but the same.
Right.
It's the same. And they both wrote songs about singing in the rain.
I'm singing in the rain.
Wine all right. That's Clockwork Orange. I know, but he's like, I've been standing in the rain for hours. You were late. That's what Phil Collins says. He says, I'm just a fool waiting on the wrong block, but he's standing in the rain. It's the same damn song. I wonder if those guys were in cahoots, because they're very similar songs. And, you know, they're both like I wonder if they said, hey, take the chord pattern to Hot Fun in the Summertime by Sly and the Family Stone and write about a shithead standing outside in the rain. Done. I always thought, you know what would be a great idea, and I'd love to do it sometime, is you get like 4 or 5 guys together and you come up with a song title and a concept, and then everyone goes and writes a song, and then you go back and you listen to everyone's song.
Ooh. That should be something for the listeners.
Yeah, or you give lyrics to everybody, and everyone has to put music and a song to the lyrics. A melody.
Okay. I like the idea. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, because it's exploring the craft of songwriting, which nobody seems to give a shit anymore. I mean, like I mentioned the Spinners. Like, here we are talking about Megadeth, but let's go back to the Spinners for a second. Remember, hey, now you hear the sound of the rubber band man. The rubber band man. What a great tune that was. They did I Never Knew Love Before, Then Came You, with Dionne Warwick.
I don't know that one off the top of my head.
And and then they also did, they had another big one with games people play night, day, they're just not stopping. But either way, those guys were coming out with hit after hit. The songwriters were writing great songs back then. I mean,
how do you feel about this is just about songwriters and similarities, and this is like, okay, so you get Tommy used to work on the docks, and then next verse, Gina works as diner all day, right? And then you also get, she's just a small town girl living in a lovely world. Next one, he's just a city boy born and raised in South Detroit. Just thinking about similarities is kind of same shit, different song.
Well, anytime you're singing a story song, you're gonna have you have to paint a picture. You know what I mean? So you have to say,
you know who they were really ripping off?
Who's that?
There's a story about a lovely lady who was living with 3 very lovely girls. Right, second verse. All of a sudden, there's the boy.
Right. Well, no, but
story of a man named Brady.
Has to paint the picture, and but Bon Jovi and who was that? Desmond Child that wrote that song with them.
He wrote that song, but I don't know who wrote the Journey song.
Oh, the Journey one is
Steve Perry,
Jonathan Cain, isn't it?
Steve Perry. Steve Perry. Yeah.
Well, with Jonathan Cain. Jonathan Cain was heavily handed on that album.
Mm.
He came and he was right. I think he wrote Open Arms by himself, if I'm not mistaken. I know he wrote Faithfully.
Ooh, Open Arms is a great song.
Faithfully, Prince called him on it. Said, hey, I just wrote a song called Purple Rain. It basically steals Faithfully. You okay with that? He goes, I don't care.
Oh, that's great.
Same song. I played a gig one night here, like one of the first, when I first came back here, these people asked me if I'd do a gig with them. I'm like, yeah, and they gave me a list of songs, and one of them was Purple Rain. So I'm like, okay. So I'm listening to Purple. I didn't even practice Purple Rain. I'm listening to it in the car, trying to learn the solo at the end, and I'm like, all right, I got it. Now it comes to the end of the night. We're playing the song, and I'm playing the solo, and I'm like, why isn't she singing, oh, and I'm like, oh, shit, I'm playing the solo of Faithfully. The end of the show, they're like, dude, that solo was unbelievable. I'm like, yeah, it's Neil Sean's Faithfully. What the hell was I doing? I'm like,
that's a guitar player that would go on your list, by the way.
Of what? Of top
Prince.
Players? Oh,
Top
Prince,
over.
easily, yeah. Prince, yeah. Prince is a great musician, great songwriter, great artist. As a guitar player, tremendously overrated. Tremendously overrated. But to me, it's very easy to pick up the overrated guys. How about who are the underrated guys?
Ooh.
Oh, one that you would think is underrated. Frank
Gambale.
No, Frank.
Yeah. Oh.
Tesla. Hannon.
Frank Hannon. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought that a year ago. It wasn't until I saw that one video and I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a guy right there that plays for the song, so you don't ever really know what kind of tricks are up the sleeve because he doesn't put them in the song.
I think Neil Giraldo was an underrated player.
What about Geraldo Rivera?
I think he's an underrated player.
Oh, Jesus.
No, seriously, but Neil Giraldo, people don't really talk, they talk about Pat Benatar, but he wrote like really melodic solos, really melodic songs. He was a great song guy. Neil Sean, to me, is an underrated player. The fact that people don't put Neil Sean in the top 10 of all-time great guitar players is Steve Lukather. Lukather should be a household name.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not just, and here's a guy that can sing better than 90% of the field.
Right.
But he also can play. I mean, he's just the most tasteful, just a great player and a great songwriter. And to me, it's a triple threat.
Did he write any of the big hits? I know that the biggest hit was David Page.
Well, Page wrote Rosanna in Africa.
Right. Oh, okay. So he wrote the two biggest hits.
Oh, he wrote more, and he wrote Hold the Line.
Okay, the three of them. So Page was okay. All right.
Page
did Lukather write anything?
Yeah.
I know he wrote the solos, but
if I had, I Won't Hold You Back was Lukather.
Okay, so he wrote some of the real slow stuff.
All the ballads. I'll Be Over You.
Got it.
What was that song on the album with Pamela? What was Anna? Please tell me. I love Anna. I would wait forever and a day. Oh, I love that. He wrote what's the one about Jeff Beccaro on Tamboo? I will do.
I have no idea.
Oh my God, it's the greatest tune. You got to listen to it. It's unbelievable. When love is the heart cannot keep. Even if I Will Remember.
Yeah.
Song. Everybody look up I Will Remember. It's a fantastic Toto song. He also wrote two of my favorites. He wrote How Does It Feel, which is on the Isolation album. And he wrote Not the Same Without Your Love.
Oh, that one I know. That one's a good one.
Oh, it's a great one. Look at this great.
Who wrote 99?
That's Page.
That's a good one, too.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I think I like the Page songs. Who wrote Georgie Porgy Pudding Pie? I could live without that one.
I think it's Lukather.
Yeah, I could live without that one.
With Cheryl Lynn singing backup.
So dumb.
I'll tell you what, though. Page also wrote the Lido Shuffle for Boz Scaggs.
Okay.
He wrote Lowdown.
Oh wow.
He wrote Miss Sun. Hey, Miss Sun, what did you say? Yeah, he wrote a lot of songs. He was also
Page is secretly the most underrated songwriter of all time.
He's phenomenal. He also was playing with Seals and Crofts. He was playing piano at like 19 years old.
Yeah.
He's on Diamond Girl. Boom, boom. A young Page and a young Jeff Beccaro are playing on that record. Those guys were unbelievable. What about Michael McDonald? He was a great songwriter.
Yeah. Again, this is an era that I'm not quite as familiar with. So my
how about David
knowledge of what exactly he wrote is lost on me a bit.
How about Ambrosia? David Pack.
I don't know much.
How much I feel for you, baby.
Nope. What are you drinking there? You got a Diet Pepsi? Pepsi, huh? Well, let me ask you this question here on you're listening to Food and Beverage Talk. How do you like the Diet Pepsi versus the Diet Coke? I haven't had a Diet Pepsi in maybe ever.
Really? I will say Diet Pepsi is far superior.
Okay, because regular Pepsi is not for me.
It's too sweet.
It is too sweet.
Diet Pepsi is it's less bitter. I think Diet Coke has a bitter taste.
Okay.
And it has more of a bite, that carbonated bite.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't care for that either.
All right. Yeah, I think Coke Zero fixed what was wrong with Diet Coke, but that's just me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Coke Zero is fantastic.
Yeah, I enjoy the Diet Pepsi.
My wife gets mad at me for drinking Coke Zero. You shouldn't be drinking those chemicals.
Right.
Probably true.
Yeah, that's when you put on Chemistry by Rush. Biology seems to me it's chemistry.
Don't know much about history.
No, I would much enjoy rather speaking about what I think of drummers more often than guitar players. To me, it's like, it's funny. I have a 15-year-old. Well, he's going to be 15 next month. No, sorry, he's going to be 15 in July. And I told him the other day, I said, listen, the two most important people in the band are the drummer and the singer. Everybody else, it doesn't matter. The drummer's great, and the singer is the face and sound.
How dare you?
Oh, seriously, well, guitar. Name a band where they replaced the. How many bands could you replace the singer and not completely change the face and sound of the band?
I'll give you one band that literally only got famous because of the guitar player. And they sold a lot of one record, and then nobody gave a shit anymore. That's right. They are your neighbors, the Boston natives, Extreme. If Nuno Bettencourt hadn't taken over that band, they would have never sold a single record because Gary Cherone is the worst, and the drummer is Who Cares?
But the big hit in the band was that acoustic number where nobody mattered. The point I'm saying is if you go see...
They say nobody mattered. That's completely true.
If you went and you said, hey, listen, Extreme is playing on... they're going to be a guest on American Idol this week, and they're playing Wholehearted and More Than Words. Great. Nuno Bettencourt couldn't be there, so Dweezil Zapp is going to fill in. Okay.
Yeah, it would be fine. It would be fine. But if it wasn't for Nuno, they would have never got that record deal in the first place. That's all I'm saying.
Gary Cherone can't play there, so Peter Dinklage, or whatever his name is going to be there. What?
Peter Dinklage is an actor.
Isn't he the midget that's in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Well, I would watch that.
Right. Well, I told you, if somebody made a complete recasting of Goodfellas and shot it with all little people, I'd watch it.
Well, Joe Pesci was the original.
That's right. That's exactly right. But seriously, if you took if you took a band like, look at well, not even that band. I just think the most important people in the bands, you're not a signed band yet, and let's say you have a drummer and his name is Pete Best. All right, listen, you guys want to make it, you got to get a new drummer. No, the drummer.
That's a good one.
And then the other guy goes, well, who sings in this band? And the other three guys are like, we all do. Okay, great. So we just need to get a drummer. We have 3 singers. You guys will be the greatest band of all time. No, but if you have a great drummer, that's important. And then a great singer.
All right, I'm gonna throw one more out there because, again, I'm just trying to poke holes for the sake of just being an asshole here.
Oh, of course.
What happens to Van Halen without Edward?
Well, it depends. Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth's 2 solo albums is Van Halen without Edward.
Mm-hmm.
Bissonette does a phenomenal job playing drums, so he's a smoking drummer.
Yep.
So you have the great singer of Van Halen, and you have a great drummer behind you.
Without Eddie, do they ever get noticed?
Oh,
I mean, Dave is phenomenal. He's one of the best frontmen of all time, so I'm not trying to say that he's not important to this equation.
No. Eddie is like, you're talking about a guy who could be the greatest thing to guitar from 1978 to today.
I recognize that. I get it.
Although I think he's overrated.
No, you do not.
I do, to a point. I think that Eddie, I just think like that people, if you're still listening to, like, you'd have to move. Like, in other words, everybody, we grow. You know what I mean? Like, but people who are still like on Van Halen's jock and they're waiting for him to come out with another record and are they going to tour again? I mean, it's like, can you care less? I could care less.
Right.
I could care less when they did 5150. I was like, I'm going to live in the time capsule of old Van Halen. Now, I do enjoy the Van Hagar stuff, but for different reasons. I mean, it's basically good Sammy Hagar stuff. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. Some days I think he's overrated. I love the way he plays and could never play like that, but I do think that it's like it's enough already. Enough with the bread already, you know?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I always get a little bit. I don't think I care enough to get irritated, but I guess in a way I kind of I don't know. I don't really give a shit. I was gonna say it just bugs me a little bit when people are always like, "I wish they would make a record like they used to."
So this one,
they they're never gonna make another record like they used to. It just doesn't happen. But all those records didn't go away. You can still listen to them.
Oh yeah, no, and it's that great. Thank God they're still there. There was a guy who called Eddie Trunk this week, and he's asking Eddie, "Why do you think Whitesnake is playing club dates and Def Leppard is playing arenas?" And I heard the most absurd answer from Eddie Trunk, saying how in the 90s, Def Leppard was putting in the work still, playing and making records. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Basically, every woman and girl who loved Def Leppard in the 80s and loved Whitesnake in the 80s had kids in the 90s, and they were raising families in the 90s. Now their kids are heading off to college or older, getting married, they're out of the house, and these people can go see shows again, and they're reliving what they loved in high school. So they're going to see Def Leppard. Whitesnake all you got to do is go on YouTube for 2 seconds and see that David Coverdale can't sing a fucking lick anymore. He's getting every song the audience is singing the chorus. He can't even show up for the chorus. He's singing the low part of "Is This Love?" and it's too high for his voice. So
Yeah.
why are they only playing clubs? Well, because no one gives two fucks about Doug Aldrich and Red Breach on guitar. Is it Red Beach? Red Breach? What's his name?
Beach.
Red Beach. Nobody cares. These guys are going to solo for 45 minutes, and then Coverdale's going to come and hack out 4 songs, and then they're going to solo for another 45 minutes. Yeah, that at a club. We're going to go see Def Leppard play 30 fucking great songs.
Yeah, I think Def Leppard's got a better. If Coverdale's playing the Deep Purple stuff, he's got a lot of songs too. But Def Leppard might have a better catalog overall.
No, but if Coverdale could sing and he was on, word of mouth would be like, you got to go see Whitesnake. They sound. It's common sense. If they sound good, people are going to go. You watch them for 2 seconds on YouTube, and you're like, the problem with the thing that Eddie Trunk didn't fucking put into the equation is, number one, the fans of these groups, the reason why the 90s didn't do well for these people in the 80s is because everyone was raising a family and having kids. And now that they're back, they want to hear people sound good. And YouTube, you go to the internet and see if they're good.
But you know the shtick. You know the gig that Eddie's got. He's not going to be honest about David Coverdale having a shot voice.
Right.
He can't.
No, he's sometimes, maybe he's friendly with them. I don't know, but it's like, I grew up a huge Ace Frehley fan. I saw, and I've seen Ace on live play good, and I've seen him on YouTube play pretty good. When I saw him play with Kiss, he was horrendous. That I would never go back to go see a show. And I think that's kind of where maybe Kiss was happy not to get him back. And why they like Tommy, because Tommy is actually, and I disagree with it. I mean, I would rather not see Tommy in Ace's costume, but Tommy is playing the solos like the record, and Ace can't play like that anymore.
Let's see. Who else out there? Is there any other bands out there that maybe wouldn't have gotten signed if it wasn't for their guitar player?
Vito Bratta.
White Lion.
I know you love them.
Yeah, they stink, but some of the solos are ridiculous. The guy could really play. I don't know. Hey, you know what I played tonight for a brief 5 minutes I thought was cool?
What?
One of those H9 pedals. Have you ever played with one of those Eventide H9s?
Yeah, they're nice. They're expensive.
Yeah, I never played with one before. It's an interesting approach. Now, for those who've never seen this pedal before, it's got all of their algorithms from all of their single pedal units. So they make these pedal units called like Time Machine or whatever. They've got 200 different delays and 200 different reverbs, and they're each in their own little thing. What's that?
Is it Time Factor?
Yeah, that's what it is. Time Factor and Space Factor and Mod Factor and all that. So this H9 thing has a bunch of those algorithms in it, and then a bunch of new stuff as well. But the thing that's weird about it is you can only use one effect at a time. So it's a multi-effect thing, but it only has the engine is devoted to doing one sound at a time. So I thought that was weird. I didn't know that.
You can't stack reverbs. You can listen to one reverb, one delay.
That's
or
correct.
You can delay and reverb together. You can stack effects, but you can't.
No. One effect at a time.
So it's useless.
It's, as a multi-effect unit, yeah. But if you want a delay on this song and a reverb on that song, you set up your presets. But that's how it works. Weird, right? I thought that was weird. It's the only multi-effect unit I think I've ever seen that operates that way.
Yeah, I think that what's their idea is you stack them, because I've seen their demos. They always put 2 or 3 H9s next to each other. And I was always like, what the hell are they doing Why do you need so many? Now I realize.
They're selling $1,500 worth of pedals instead of 5.
That's not good.
The thing is, like, with digital technology, it's all so good these days that, like, you really don't need to say, well, the H9 sounds that much better than this other one, so I'm going to buy 3 of them. It's like, dude, it's all right.
Better off just a couple of new neighbor pedals.
I thought it sounded, yeah, that's true. I thought it sounded good, and I think the approach is neat, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you got going on this upcoming week? You got any plans to hit any cool restaurants?
I got a gig tomorrow.
Oh, more music. Here we go. I'm trying to get into food here, bud.
I'm playing this big barbecue. So that'll be fun. And then,
how many pounds of meat are you going to shove down your fat face?
We'll see how much I can fit down there, but it's going to be good. And then we're playing for 4 hours, and it pays really well. And then Tuesday I have lessons during the day. I have 2 lessons, and I might go live Tuesday night. I haven't decided yet. Wednesday, I don't know what I got going on. Thursday I have another gig, and Friday I have a gig.
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on the road this.
Gig. But the gig got canceled because the Bruins are playing Saturday night.
Yeah, Stanley Cup Finals. Congrats on the Bruins.
Yep.
What did they already play any games, or is it kicking off this week?
Game 1 starts today.
And it's the Bruins and the Blues.
Yeah.
Now, as a Boston sports fan, I have to only assume that you're rooting for your Bruins.
Of course.
I have, as like an NHL fan and a hockey fan in general, I've got no problem rooting for the Bruins. But I also kind of think it's cool that St. Louis is there. This is the first time in my lifetime I think I've ever seen St. Louis make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the road this week for work, just doing the Bay Area. So I'm going to be dodging used heroin needles and human feces.
Awesome.
As I go between my dealers.
Your drug dealers?
I wish, yeah. Dude.
All right, well, let's call this one. And
Northern California.
I will talk to you. I will see you on the Flism Flasm for next week's.
What was that? I'll just catch you on the flippity flop.
Yeah.
Catch you later, Jobum. What movie was that? I don't know. All right, very good. All right, everybody.
Very good, everybody.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.